We are live. This is the Group Sales Power Hour. And our mission here, lest you forget, is to help you build a bigger, better group business. And I can't think of a better time than to be having these conversations right now as we look ahead at the, if I may be so bold, Dan, to say tsunami of group business and business coming our way. Welcome, Dan.
Yeah,
Thanks for being here.
it's great to be here, Stuart. Thanks for joining, and thanks for inviting me here.
You bet. You and I met. It had to be on a number of occasions, right? At the Connection Group Summit. Did we meet at Travel Leaders too? I'm trying to think. We see each other all over town.
Yeah, we've our paths crossed multiple times over the last 4 or 5 years at different industry events, and you're doing what you do very well, and talk about groups, and we both share that passion of just helping agents grow their business.
We do. We do. And one of the things that blew me away was watching you talk to the advisors. Get up, it's one thing making a presentation. It's another ask me anything questions. And I shouldn't be surprised, but I am surprised only because there's, and I'm going to say this lovingly, but not everybody can do what you do. You know your stuff, man. And you think is you work back a house, but you love the agent community. You're like their biggest advocate, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think obviously, coming from Appalachia Group and running on the vacation side of things, I mean, 85% of our business comes from the travel agents. So when I get the opportunity to travel with agents and do sales calls and see what's going on, I mean, you can't fix anything unless you can see the problem. And those one-on-ones that I have the opportunity to have with agents allow me to take that information, bring it back to the company, work with the different departments. Stuart, what's really interesting about groups at ALG is the fact that we're kind of our own company within this umbrella of just everything, of AM Resorts and Amstar and of course all the vacation brands. So it's not just that we come in and we just do groups. It's like we're the ones in charge of our marketing. We're in charge of the way the system works and is designed. And there's a lot of synergies working with the people in our company to make the group product work. But it's just, that's what gives me a lot of passion is when agents sit there and say, hey, can your system do this? It's like taking that information, going back to the developers at Tricept and sitting there saying, not only will this help groups, but it might also help FIT bookings as well.
Yeah, I love it. And that's another thing that I'm not only impressed with your knowledge, but also your company, ALG Vacations, how focused you are on developing systems to make the group process simpler. Because, man, it could be complicated without easy systems. And I know because I've seen them. I've seen you demonstrate them. Hey, before we begin, because I've got a lot of questions for you. I know there's a lot of stuff you want to share. And I know that the advisors who are here with us live, see, Dan, I make believe that they're here in my office. You guys are all here in my office right now.
Sure.
I'm so done with, look, I've been doing webinars for a bazillion years, as you have, but we missed that one-on-one interaction. So we're going to make believe everyone's here in the room. So advisors, welcome. If you have questions for Dan, who is the director of group sales at ALG Vacations, then I'm going to ask him in a moment to explain exactly what he does for the company if you've never had the pleasure of meeting this man. And then we're going to take your questions. Go ahead and type in stuff. I have a little itty bitty tiny poll. It's a one question poll that I'm going to ask you to answer so we know where you are when it comes to future groups, cruise ships, or resorts. I'm just curious, what is it looking like going forward? And we're going to uncover a lot of valuable information that will help you build a bigger, better group business, because now's the time. Now's the time. If you're not already in the game, you better get in the game quick. Dan, take a minute and tell us what do you do for ALG Vacations? What's your role?
Yeah, so as Stuart mentioned, my role is Director of Group Sales for ALG Vacations. So that's the brands of Travel Impressions, Apple Vacations, FunJet, Blue Sky Tours, United Vacations, and Southwest. So primarily we focus on what we call the big three, the legacy brands that came together a few years ago to form ALG. So Apple Vacations, Travel Impressions, and FunJet. We do the Hawaii groups on our Blue Sky brand, as well as United Vacations, our airline brand that we manage as well. And so I oversee the sales team, and our team is uh, synergized that they quote and work all the brands. So it's not that we have people dedicated just to one brand versus the other. Over the last couple of years, in terms of the merger and integration, our brands have really adapted some similarities. So Travel Impressions would be the brand that you would want to use for a little bit higher commission. It's going to be at a higher price point, but typically agents make a little bit more. And then on Apple and FunJet, it's really kind of what is the client's preference if someone's been loyal to that, because the price point and the commissions are going to be the same on those two brands. So that's the gist of kind of what I do. I work with a lot of hotel partners in terms of getting promotions together. And with groups, it's very different when we do promotions. It's not as so cut and dry, instant savings, $200 off like you might see throughout the months or the weeks or with promo codes. It's more of how do we get agreements where groups can earn group credits up to $2,000, up to $2,500. So it's really working with those hotel partners to come to the table and help market whatever promotion. To be truthfully, a lot of the promotions come from ALG Vacations, and we go out and we solicit the help from the hotels for that. So sometimes we get asked, well, why doesn't my favorite hotel have a promotion? And it's a lot of times we have to be the ones to initiate that versus the hotel.
Right.
So between the sales component, the quote close type of thing, the marketing aspect, and then obviously working with our service team and the back of the house operations team, that keeps me pretty busy.
I would say so. And doing it all virtually, is that right? Is your whole team
Yeah,
virtual?
yeah. So thankfully, what I count my blessings on is the fact that the team that we have in place today, these teams worked in one of our 5 offices at one point together. So the chemistry and that collaboration, that foundation of what a team is, was already built before COVID happened. My heart goes out to some of these companies that are trying to bring team members in and trying to train them and onboard them, because it is such a different element. And when you're working groups, it is such a teamwork atmosphere, because sales can get it so far, but operations has got to bring it to life, and then service has got to bring it home. And so the inner workings of that and having that face-to-face communication is so key. But this group department, we had, like a lot of companies this past year with COVID, we had to make a lot of difficult decisions and reduce our staff. But the core of the team in general is team members that have worked together for many, many years. It's our veterans, and those are the people that are leading us into this next new chapter of what group travel will be.
Very exciting. I'm going to ask you one more question. Then we're going to do a poll. And then, man, the preparation we did, Dan, was everything's on the table.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to fire away with questions about, what you see over the years or currently agents doing well, what you wish they did more of, what you wish they did less of, what you have a tool that can save them hours of work. I'm going to talk about, we need to mention destination weddings, your thoughts on packaging, niches, incentives. And I'm also going to ask if there's any particular hotels or hotel chains you see that have really stepped up that are worth noting and praising for what they're doing right
Yeah.
now and going forward. There's a lot of stuff on the table. So before I post this poll, here's the question. What's it looking like? What's business look like? What's happening right now? What does the future look like for groups?
Well, business is booming. I mean, it just, I mean, I think a lot of us thought we would have a slow ramp up through February, March. CDC ruling came out in January, which just devastated the industry again, right? From it doesn't matter if you're on the ship or on the land, it impacted you. And it was almost a second announcement again. It's like here we are. It felt like March again from 2020 when that announcement came out. But what happened is that since basically end of February, mid February, going back, business is booming. People, some states have relaxed some of their travel requirements. People got used to the new restrictions in place from the CDC. Hoteliers stepped up and said, guess what? We'll take care of the testing costs. So don't worry about that. It's just a little inconvenience on your trip, but we're going to do testing in-house and we'll pay for it. A lot of hotels stepped up and did that. And it brought a new confidence to the industry. It gave agents that power to go there and say, look at Cancun, look at the Dominican, look at what they're doing down there and the protocols that they're in place. So the past 6 to 8 weeks, we are actually seeing in certain periods of time, we're seeing numbers not better than 2020, but going better than 2019, which was one of the best years that we had within the industry as a whole. So that's some of the trends that we're definitely seeing right now.
Wow. So this is encouraging. This is exciting. I have to say it's not a surprise because not only do we have the pent up demand for the groups that were supposed to happen that didn't, we also
Right.
have all the people are like, we want to be together. We want to go, get away, have fun.
Yeah,
And it,
one of the analogies I was talking with an agent a few weeks ago about this, and their phone was ringing off the hook. She didn't know if she should be recalling staff or hiring some temps or something. And I said it's almost equivalent to having, and my kids are a little bit young, but I remember my days of being a high schooler, teenager. It's almost this shift in or just travel in general, where people are in this adolescent teenage rebellion movement right now, where they're like, we're tired of staying home. We're tired of doing things. I'm going to travel and I'm going to go outside this country because that is how much they want to go right now. So it's almost mom, dad, I don't care what you think, we're going, do something mentality, but we're seeing it on a scale of 2019 or better levels right now.
wow, that's exciting. That's encouraging. And on that note, I've just put a poll out there. If you would please go ahead and register here. The question is, are the majority of your future groups, where are they? Are they looking like they're going to be on cruise ships or at land resorts? Just curious. Where are you putting your groups? So if you would be so kind to answer that question, and then we'll share the results. I appreciate it. Dan, I know you're hoping for which?
The second one there, the land
I know.
resorts, all of them.
Yeah. And the crazy part is there's no, I'm not going to comment on the open date, if you will. Let me share the results when cruising is coming back. But so we've got 2/3 future groups on cruise ships and a third at land resorts. There you go, a third. And I wonder, those of you who typed in land resorts, would you enter? Well, my discussion with Dan continues. What kind of group is it? Destination wedding? I'm just curious. Give me your comments on that. I want to share that with Dan. But what's your takeaway, Dan? Do you think
Yeah,
land resorts could be handling more and different? I mean, they're. I mean, you could be booking them now. I mean, I just got back from, I told you, the Grand at and Cancun. I'm heading back down a couple of weeks. What's your thoughts on that? Surprised, pleased, or do you think you need more?
yeah, I guess I'm a little bit surprised that that's where our audience is kind of leaning towards, because if we were to look at the CDC recommendations for face value, they're saying open door, get outside, and not saying you can't do that on a cruise ship, but you're a little bit more confined, of course, except obviously when you're in the ports and stuff. But the land resorts, what we've seen in this upsurge of business that we have is destination weddings, because the states are all different, right? You got the free states down south, and then you up north and on the coastlines, you got the handcuff states a little bit. And but people, here's one of the things, and Stuart, I think you and I had talked about this many times, is the great thing about of group travel is there's always a niche that just never fades, and that's destination weddings, because no matter how bad or how good the economy is, how locked down or how free I guess people are, what people get married. And
Yeah.
so that's the big thing. And so a lot of people who were looking at that more stateside banquet wedding hall type of thing are looking at those destination weddings going, I can't get my family to come unless it's an outdoor celebration, open air. I don't really want to do that. I'm in Milwaukee. I'll rip on my own city. I don't want to do that in Milwaukee in April. It's kind of
Yeah.
cold. We got a big pond next to us that's always frozen, it seems. So, but could we do this on a rooftop? Could we do this as a gazebo on the beach? So I'm a little kind of surprised by that, but also I understand from an agent perspective the call it the desire to do cruises, because they are simpler compared to some of these land resorts. There's less components overall, and I know we'll probably talk about packaging a little bit later, but
Sure.
I could see why people would lean that way a little bit.
It's interesting you say that, Dan. In my perspective, and I want to ask everyone in the audience this question. If you agree or disagree with me, that's okay. I have seen cruise vacations get a lot more complicated, Dan. I would submit to you right now that a resort vacation, particularly all inclusive, and I know you represent a lot of all inclusive chains, which we'll talk about. They make it so much simpler. There's less choices. It's almost, as if just choose your category. And if we need private events, if it's a destination wedding and so forth. But, the last time I cruised, of course, I was on a river cruise, but on a big ship cruise, it was with a conference last few times. And man, if you don't make decisions in advance, if you don't wait online, if you don't get stuff, you don't know where you're eating. You don't know which excursion you're on. So I'm just letting you know that I really think booking an all-inclusive is simpler these days. And everyone chime in. Do you agree, disagree? Dan?
Yeah, I guess I mean I look at it from what kind of fears some agents from doing group business. And I think in one of over the years I always kind of kick off with a visual, and I used to kind of sit there and say pull up a picture of a dark wooded forest basically where it's doom and gloom, and I'm like what comes to mind, and it's that fear thing. And I guess where I'm going with this is, the hotels were first to really kind of instill the attrition and cancellation penalties, where you sometimes need a lawyer to read through them because it's 20% of this and 10% of this and this date range and that date range. And I think that pushed some agents to just focus on cruising, because the cruising world was a little bit more of like, are you using the cabin or not? It was kind of like that sort of thing. Um, but there's other parts of the business now that are getting a little bit more complicated. But one of the big things with COVID in this past year with the resort side is a lot of these hotels that had to put these stringent restrictions on their contracts have really lined up over the last year. I mean, everyone's fighting for occupancy right now.
Sure.
Every now and then you get a week or a weekend where they're like, yeah, we're at our capacity. That doesn't mean it's actually a capacity that every room is being used. It's under occupancy due to COVID in that country or that state. So we do run into that a little bit, but I think, you know, with the way a whole lot of the hotels have changed their policies right now, it is a little bit more similar to some of the cruises, doing groups, are you just going to use the room or not? They've come down on the cancellation and attrition. So it's become a lot easier to manage, at least on our side, and work with the agents, what those policies are, so that agents don't have that fear of going, oh my God, what's going to happen? Am I on the hook for this? So we're trying to remove that as we go along.
I hear it, and that's good information to share. And those of you who are in boot camp, or if you just attended boot camp live, when we talked about the group launch sequence, there's nothing more important. And Dan, this is I don't know if you were in the room when I presented group launch sequence at some of the events, but it's a way of launching a group to the consumers. It's almost fail safe. Basically, long and short, we're really doing a marketing model that's a true product launch, just
Sure.
like you would see a book launch, a restaurant launch. In travel, we've always done it backwards. In travel, I've seen the advisors block the space, publish the prices, and then do the marketing. Okay, versus do the marketing, block the space, do the marketing, and tell them when you can buy it. Because right now you can't. Not ready, not ready. Now you can. It's almost like when they have a President's Day sale, or, well, back in the day it was a Black Friday Day sale. We know that that's now
Yeah.
there's Cyber Monday. But we need to really up our game when it comes to marketing, especially when we're on the hook. We've got money down, or we can lose space. So, but I appreciate you sharing with everybody, giving everyone a new level of confidence that some of these hotel groups have relaxed, have adapted, have changed their group policies. Let me read some of the comments here. Hi, Linda says, the poll was hard because I have both. She has a future cruise group and a land group. There you go. Rock and roll,
There you
Linda.
go.
And it's a family group that's going on land, a family group. Karen D said destination weddings and niche groups, for example, culinary and a downtown Abbey group. And those are all land groups she has coming up that I know. Stacy, hi Stacy, says hers is a family travel, a mini reunion, birthday trips and girls trips. That's what she's got coming up. And Hans says it was amazing how quickly the resorts adapted to the requirement for testing and quarantining.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
I know you had. I'm wondering, have on that line of thinking, have you seen specific resorts or hotel chains that have impressed the heck out of you and your organization with how quick they've stepped up and what they're doing right now that the agents need to be aware of and take note of because of what they have done and what they are doing as advocates for the industry to get their business?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would probably say AIM Resorts is probably one of the best they were the first to really step up. When that announcement came out in January, and with only literally a couple weeks to implement, we saw the first few days of that announcement, the mass cancellations. We went, uh-oh, here we go again. But AM Resorts was one of the first top tier chains to sit there and say, we're going to do testing, we're going to do it on site, and it's going to be complimentary. Now, and so if you're not familiar with AM Resorts, that's the brands of Zoetry, which is very boutique, smaller hotels. You got your Secrets, which is your adults only. You have your Dreams, which is your family brand, very similar to Secrets in terms of product, but it is geared for families. And then we have Now, the brand Now, and Sunscape. So it was really great to see that organization step up and say we're going to do on-site testing, because what it did is when you got over 70 hotels or in one brand sitting there saying we're doing this, it forced some of the other hotels to step up. So Ryu came up and said we're going to be doing on-site testing. Iberostar. Now there's always a little asterisk next to some of these because in certain destinations it's very hard for the hotels to do this, but generally speaking, if you were to kind of gearing a land vacation for a group and you're going, okay, I don't know what is going to be in play in a year from now or 6 months from now, look at the brands that have stepped up. And if you go on our website, algvacations.com, and take a look at some of the COVID protocols, pick from that list. Look at the resorts that are doing that, because if they're making that commitment now, we don't know what the future is going to be. We don't know if this is going to continue for 6 months, 9 months, a year. We don't know. But it's a good indicator to you as a booking professional to sit there and go, well, this hotel chain has stepped up versus maybe a partner of the travel industry that maybe is sitting there saying, yeah, we offer it, but it's $135 a person. That those costs add up very quickly for a family of four, where it's probably they may not go because of that increase in cost. So yeah, definitely take a look at AM Resorts, look at Reuse, look at Iberostar. There's some of the leaders in this industry.
Okay. All right. No, we appreciate you sharing that. That's important to know. All right. Here we go. I want to start talking groups, successes, failures. It's one of my favorite questions. Sometimes we learn more, Dan, from other people's or our own mistakes, so we know not to do it a second time. I mean,
Yeah.
first things that come to mind, and we didn't rehearse this, first things that come to
No.
mind, stuff that you see travel professionals do that you wish they would stop or you wish they would change because it
Yeah.
just more often leads to failure. Go.
It's a great question, and I wish I could spend more time talking about this. Usually, when I do trainings and visit agents, I would probably say quoting air is the number one mistake agents do at the very onset of doing a group. And
Hmm.
here's what happens, and I'll tell you from this wholesaler supplier side. We get a request for 20 people, 10 rooms, which is for certain chains are minimum. There are suppliers like AM Resorts that will allow to do a contract as low as 5 rooms, okay? Or Hard Rock Hotels, 5 rooms. Valentine Hotel down in Cancun, Riviera Maya, 5 hotels. But we get that request, which is basically what we call a bare minimum request. And inside the request, it says need air, scheduled air. And in the form, excuse me, there will be a, LA to Cancun for 20 people. But in the notes section of the form, it says need 3 nights, 4 nights, 6 nights, and 7 nights, or whatever rates. Okay, we're going to quote that anyways. And so what we do is we quote that hotel only, and the agent comes back and says, I need air. Okay, so here's the problem that we have is if you're asking for multiple dates, that's a first indication that not everyone's going to be on the same flights or even maybe the same cities. And so if you don't really know how air works with some of the airlines is we work with the carriers, we ask for block seats. And what we often get is higher than normal passenger counts from the agent. So maybe they only need 10 seats, which is the minimum for every airline, but they say, oh, give me a quote for 20. Well, airfare in the group world is the only thing that the more you buy, the higher fare usually is. You
Hmm.
could go to Costco and buy a pallet of toilet paper. They'll probably cut you a deal because you bought more of it. But with the airlines, they sit there and say, oh, well, we're going to get that yield somehow. We're going to shoot that up another 40, 50, 60 bucks a seat, because the whole idea of group air is price parity. Everybody has the same fare. And so the more seats you take, the higher the fare can be. Now, there's an exception to every rule. Maybe, there's a pricing error, there's the flight's not selling, and you get a great deal. It matches what you would see on FIT. But that request comes in for 20 seats. Well, it's very hard for us to understand, well, what days do you need that group air for? Well, I don't know. And then also you start going through it. Well, every now and then you get an agent that's very insisting and says, nope, I need air. I can't go back to my client without having air. And so we go, okay, well, we'll get 20 seats for 7 nights because you need air. And we get that rate for air, and it's hundreds of dollars more than what the customer is going to see online if they were to go to an online travel agency or the airline direct. And then they look at you, the agent, and go, whoa, why are you charging 500-600 per seat when I see it on, just throwing American out there, for 380? Are you jacking the cost up, or what's going on there? And so the strategy on those is, if the customers don't know, don't quote the air as a group air. Look at bundling that up as a package. Our technology at ALG allows you to add air on individually inside of those contracted rates. So when you go to contract with us, what we're doing is we're contracting that hotel rate. That rate doesn't change. And so when you're ready to book air, you could simply add that on, and at the lowest published price that's in the system at the time you make the booking. So agents go, well, Dan, what do I do in that case? The simple thing is, here is your hotel rate, and then look at air individually. What are 2 seats going for? And maybe pad it a little bit. But to start off and go, here's your $700 rate for air on top of your hotel, you might have blown past that consumer's budget, client's budget, and now you're starting from a negative perspective. So that's not to say every group, there's groups that incentive travel, they're on a strict 3-day, 4-day, everyone's on the same flight. Yeah, that's when you use the block air contract. But for probably close to 90% of our social leisure groups, they do not travel on a block air contract. They add air individually at the time the customer is willing to book or make that reservation in our system.
Wow. That's really important. There's always a lot of talk about that. And I think the advisors, if they haven't already come to terms with that reality, it is what it is. And it hasn't changed in the airline business for a long time. It's yield management.
It is.
And we just have to accept it. And I think there needs to be full disclosure, right? The agent needs to explain that you might just be better off. Let's book you on an individual basis, because with the group, the more seats we get, the price is going to go up because and the agent, because as you said, it could reflect poorly on the agent. And unfortunately, some agents will go back and blame the supplier, yours truly, and it's not your fault. So
yeah,
it's a cycle.
yeah. So
Now,
just kind of right sizing that group.
yeah,
If you got 10 or more on the same dates, okay, that's an option. But at the same time, just making sure they understand what options are available to add air on individually to that contracted rate.
sure. And I think you bring up a good point. You talk to the group and you say, here are your 2 options. We can do group, and here's the pros and the cons, especially if they're coming from the same gateway. I mean, you don't even want to have a conversation if they're not enough people. Or we can do individuals, pros and the cons, present the options.
Mhm.
Successes. In your experience, and maybe you can give us an anecdote, the true story of a group, but what do you see in general? The more successful agents, those agents, agencies that are your top 20% with ALG Vacations doing groups, what are they doing right, Dan?
Yeah, I would probably say the biggest thing that they do right is they look at the entire product lineup that we have, and they go, how do I take everything you have and sell it to my clients? So let's start with the air. We've been talking about air. They know our charter gateways, or what we call exclusive nonstop vacation flights, ENVS, exclusive nonstop vacation flights. They know when they have clients coming from one of those cities, and they look at utilizing the air and making that a package, because they make more money. They get 15% on that air component in addition to the hotel piece. Okay, then they're going to add in the transfers. They're going to support Amstar, which is part of the ALG network, or part of our what we call the vertical, and they utilize the transfers, so they make money there. Then they add travel protection in-house through us. Now here's a fun fact with travel protection over this past year. One is, I think everybody understands the why they should have travel protection now after COVID.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's and the other thing is, not every operator right now is offering travel protection for contracted groups. Um, so we still are doing that, and we still offer 2 products. We have a cash back option, which is the less of the 2 policies, and we have a full cash back option based on the package price. So just kind of keep that in mind. Not all wholesalers, tour operators are the same right now on that. But it's those agencies that really know our product lineup inside and out, and that's where they make the most. And when you're able to support a tour operator such as ALG, not only do you get the most commission on that group, but you also get to get your agency, if we want to call it, commitments or spend goals. And there's a lot of rewards for that. So there's, on the agent side, we have what's called a waves program, where you earn so many points for a booking, and then you can cash in those points for free stuff, free travel for yourself. But also your agency gets something too, different statuses, which gets you access to different numbers and 500 club lines on the FunJet side. So that is the biggest key, is knowing our product lineup, selling those charter flights. We often hear, why don't you have a charter out of this city and that city? Well, the question is, we would love to have that, but if we don't have the agent community to help support it, it's not, in this day and age, we can't just drop a plane in and have 20 seats on it and that's it
Right.
to fly 4 hours. So any vertical support to the ALG brands is definitely appreciated, because you ultimately make more.
I don't know if you mentioned this word in this conversation, package.
Mm-hmm.
Package. Something that I teach in boot camp is package. Dan, I say it till I'm blue in the face, travel, and you tell me how you feel about this and how it works with land, okay,
Yeah.
with resort. Uh, I believe any travel professional that sells a an off-the-shelf, stripped down, bare bones product is not going to be successful in the group arena, because then it becomes a commodity, a pricing game. You can't do the markups and impact your margins. You are a commission hostage, in fact. You're only limited to earning what that vendor supplier is willing to pay. And to the bottom line, you're not, the travel person, you're not doing anything special for me. I can go online and book the same thing a million places. So talk to me about the package. Is it possible? Do you believe in it? Do you have the back end facilities that allow agents to add in peripheral products, like you said, your verticals?
Yeah, that's it. So I definitely believe in it. Anything that you can do to up that package price and make more, why wouldn't you do it as a travel professional? I mean, we make our livelihoods on this. I think it's, if some people say, Dan, why should I haven't done groups, and why should I get into groups, and what's the advantage? I always come back to one talking point, and it's really about creating a customized travel itinerary. Now, people say, how do you do that if I'm part of a group? Doesn't everybody have to fly in the same dates and same garden view, dumpster view room at the resort? And the answer is no. And that's less than 10% of our groups. I mean, that's really your meeting and incentive groups that have this strict itinerary guidelines when it comes to the land. Obviously, if you're on the ships, it's different, because the ship leaves here and comes back here. You're very locked in, right?
Mhm.
But with the resorts, people come and go. Some people want to do they want to use points and miles that they accumulated with the airline, and some people just need the room. Some people need everything. One of the things that I have often hear from agents is they sit there and say, just give me hotel only. I may tell my clients do air on their on their own. And I go, why would you do that? Like, they could go online and book the hotel on their own. Why would you not offer your services? Well, it's too complicated. Well, what's complicated about it? And I kind of work through some of those barriers to sale, or barriers to get involved. And the answer is usually it's a lot of work. Well, yes, you're always going to have somebody that's, what's the price today? What's next day? What's the price? What's the price? So then I say, charge them for it. Well, what do you mean
Mhm.
that? In our booking engine, we have what's called set your commission, your own commission, SYOC. And what's awesome about that is you can go in there and mark up a booking $25, $50, $2,000, whatever you want. And so you're able to do that if you have those high needs passengers that are taking a lot of your time. But anytime you're able to provide air, hotel, transfers, and excursions and travel protection, those 5 key elements, you're doing something right. You're to make the most on those bookings. So definitely, with all our contracted groups, you can package in excursions. Let's face it, once they get to the hotel, they're going to be asked by the hotel, they're going to be asked by third parties down there, and they're going to be asked by our own DMC as well. So why not try to get that ahead of time? Now, the key to all that is the timing. Are you going to try to sell an excursion such as swim with the dolphins when you're still trying to narrow down the hotel? Probably not, unless the whole purpose of the trip is to swim with the dolphins. Okay.
Right,
But
right.
most of it, so I think it's the timing of that conversation to collect enough of deposit to get them involved, but not to overwhelm them with a high price point with all the favorite excursions.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, convincing them that, look, if we take care of all this stuff in advance, it's a done deal when you get there. You're not waiting online. You're not paying the price could be higher. And perhaps we can arrange a private excursion because of the size of the group. And something you just said that was key, Dan, is fees. You enable, let me make sure I'm saying back what I heard you say.
Mm-hmm.
The travel agency can add in fees and markup in your system. And that is, man, as long as I've been in this business, back in the day, it was largely commission driven. And I think the more advanced entrepreneurial agent realizes I can't survive on commission alone. They do the markup and they do groups. Your system allows that?
That's correct. Yes. So it's called, again, it's called Set Your Own Commission, SYOC. In VAX, it says booking administration in the right gutter for the agents to click on, and they can go in there and add that amount.
Yeah.
So, so some agents will come to me, Stuart, and sit there and say, I can't do that.
Hmm.
I'm competing, these clients want to book on Expedia or something. I can't sneak in any money. It's not sneaking in. What's your time worth, right?
Hmm.
I mean, people have no problem paying a lawyer $200 an hour to draft a will, but yet that might take them a whole whopping 1 hour to do on a template. But when it comes to travel, we're willing to work for 8 hours for free. And I
Yeah.
go, we can't sneak in $25 or put in a fee. So let's go back to why you should get into groups. Well, groups it's agent centric, and what that means is there's not an app or an online site where you can just go book 50 people. Yes, you can work with the hotel direct, but they're not going to help you with the air. They're not going to help you with the transfers necessarily, depending on the supplier. So it's really about, hey, I'm going to be working for you. I'm going to be working with the life of the group from contract signing to when they travel. And again, if you feel that your services allow you to put a booking fee of $25, $50 on it, I say go for it.
Hmm.
It's kind of knowing what you're doing for the customer.
Absolutely. If you have confidence that what you're doing is a tremendous service, and as I always like to say it, and everyone who's in the audience right now, who's in my office right now, you all know this. You add value and convenience, you reduce stress and risk, and you transform the experience. If you're not doing that, you definitely can't add a couple of bucks in, and you need to be confident. You need to be proud of it. You need to realize I will earn this. I have earned it. I deserve it because of the work I'm doing for you. And Dan, just to pass along a comment, Linda W says, I love ALG where I can just add my fee. It goes as an administration fee. I've been doing that with all my clients this year. I love VAX. So there you go.
That's awesome.
We got a
Thank you.
we got a vote of confidence here. So fees. Now let's talk about uh, so I'm going to shoot out a whole bunch of concepts to you. Destination weddings. What do you see agents doing wrong or right? Just you want to give just a comment on destination weddings because we have more and more agencies getting into that game.
Yeah, so destination weddings, it's half of our business basically, high 40%. What they're doing right about it, make sure the date's available before you get starting planning a hotel. So often we get through the contract process, we both parties sign the contract, we give it out, open up what we call your VAX dashboard, and then we find out the hotel doesn't have that wedding date open, and we're starting from scratch. Agent customers don't like that. That's part of usually the travel planners role there. So just make sure that date's open before you get started.
That's a good one. That's a good one. I mean, something you may just not think of right away, but that's pretty important to check on first.
Yeah.
Um, Incentives for any comment on this. We have a group leader. Any comment on the incentive for the give back, whether it's the tour credit, and what's your insight there? We spent a lot of time
Yeah.
talking about this.
Yeah, this seems to get more complicated because there was a day, not too long ago that hotels would sit there and say, go find your travel agent. They didn't really want to work directly with consumers. Um, it's from an ALG standpoint, we do not keep any comps or concessions from a wholesaler side. We pass them through to the agent. What you do with it from an agent side is 100% your business. So what do I mean by that? You can give it to your customer. You can keep it as commission. We do charge a 10% fee on that because it is similar to what I just mentioned with that set your own commission, that if it is money coming back to you, so we do report on the 1099 at the end of the year. But it's very hard. It's very hard to keep a comp these days because depending on the group leader, you could have someone super savvy that might have reached out to the hotel already. They know they earned that upgrade. They know they earned that free passenger. And if you don't disclose that, it could get a little dicey. So I think it's knowing and maybe asking them, have you started researching this group? Have you worked with another agent? Have you talked to anyone at the hotel? And spin as, have you talked to anyone at the hotel that is familiar with your group that I could connect with? Not like, do they give you a quote? Just keep it lighthearted and see, because often when it comes to us, from the wholesale side, if the group names truly match and we go to the hotel and say, hey, I'm working with the Smith family, the hotel might say, oh, we already quoted someone with that. And it's like, oh, here we go. And now you got this whole big negotiation to try to get those rates and stuff like that. So I think on the comp and concession, my advice is, I always say, if you're able to give something back to your customer, that's a customer that you're going to be able to probably keep for a lifetime, not just for this group, but hopefully FIT business. Part of the success of groups for a lot of the agencies is that customer multiplier. And it's really about making sure you have that brand knowledge spread across that group. So when you're working an FIT booking, you're just working usually a family or something. Now you have a group of 40 people. Think about the marketing exposure, that multiplier that people already know you by, for doing just one basically FIT reservation on a grand scale. So I say pass it along if you can, but I also understand the agent side. 2020 was a rough year, got to make up for some shortfalls, but I would just be cautious about that.
Yep. No, and I agree. And I think it's great advice for our advisors listening right now. Ask the question. Hey, before I get going on this project for you, I'm very excited about. Have you made any phone calls? Have you spoken to anybody? Get some full disclosure here, so you at least know where they're at. And you're right. Some are so savvy. I'm a big believer, Dan, that an agent should not reveal the specific details of their negotiated contract with you, with hotels, with cruise lines, and that any incentive or reward should be earned. Sure. Oh, is that what's important to you? You want that free bed, that free room, or whatever it is? Well, we're just going to, I don't use the word paper it up, but in our group agreement letter, as long as we hit this, you get this, and you can juice it up a couple here and there so you make sure you don't fall short. But I don't believe, and I'm not, you didn't say this, but I just want to make sure our agents understand they can't be gimmies. They can't be guarantees, because you don't want to get caught short making a promise that ends up coming out of your pocket.
Yeah, and that's a good point. I mean, that's the other thing too. One of your questions was what do agents not do 100% correctly?
Right.
You got to have some type of agreement, and a lot of agents get caught up in the group business. They don't have an agreement in place. The customer continues to shop. They don't leverage the concessions, to your point, to hit minimums in order to get that. Again, if there's nothing that says, hey, if the hotel says for every 10 people you get a free passenger, there's nothing that says in your agreement you can't mark that up a little bit and say one for every 15. So you're stretching the goalposts, you're extending them, you're still passing it along, but at the same time you're giving them a stretch goal to reach so they get it and you increase. So
Love it.
I think it really depends on strategy. Customer though, is key. You know, you get some people that just don't care. Yep, plan it out, and you get some other ones. When it comes to weddings, a lot of brides, you know what we call them sometimes, that sometimes don't, that want control over every little piece. Those would be a little bit harder to do, but still try to get that group agreement in
Yeah,
place.
I agree. We're very big proponents. We support the group agreement letter, and that, remember, if you do a gimme, oh yeah, we'll give you this, and there's no strings attached, if you will. Then when they do come back, they're going to expect the same thing free, and you may not be able to do it because the terms are different. You want to protect yourself. I want to ask this question, which I don't know if any others ask you, and it's about time management. This is a really big issue with all of us, right? We want to get more done in less time. When it comes to groups, a lot of agencies choose not to do groups because they end up, working 25, 27 hours a day in a group because they're not using good systems. They don't have efficient ways. And we teach this in boot camp, but from a provider, a tour operator perspective, can can you give us some tips, any advice, what you do, what your team does, or what agents can do to, get work done in less time, be super efficient so they get to sleep at night and they don't wreck the rest of their business because they're getting drowned in group stuff that they don't need to drown in.
Yeah. So for most of it, so our system is 100% Vax vacation access. I
Right.
always say if you have the skill set to make one FIT booking, you have the skill set to manage 200 rooms in a group. We provide an agent a dashboard which they log into. They see their inventory. They see their rooms that they have contracted each night. They know right away if they have that room or not. And so that whole kind of keeping a name list type of thing, do I have the room? Do I not? Okay, let me figure it out. You always have that live scorecard to go into and take a look. Okay. So that's something that's really awesome about our system is agent makes the booking and you're able to create that reservation for each client like you would for FIT, but inside of your dashboard. So it keeps
Okay.
everything together.
Right.
Now, in terms of time management, what can agents do? Well, it's twofold here. One is make sure you request enough inventory that you know will sell, but also let's diverse that inventory a little bit from the get-go. So often we get, hey Dan, give me 10 lead-in rooms, 10 garden views. Okay, that's great, but you know you're gonna probably have an ocean view in there. You know you're gonna have an ocean front, swim ups and stuff. And then all of a sudden, months later, everybody wants a swim up. Well, there's only so many swim outs, and those are usually one of the least amount of rooms because it's always ground floor, with the exception of some of the charisma hotels that have it stacked in generations and stuff. But in general, what happens is agents they're so they don't feel that that group is, they have people that see the value in the increased room category. Well, one of the strategies, as we say, is get 70 to 75% in your lead in and then diversify that 20 to 25%. Hold that ocean view, hold that ocean front so that you're able to just right away book them and you don't have to work back through service. But two, you're also sitting there saying, hey, I don't have a lead in room anymore. I do have an ocean view. You're upselling within your group, you're making more money, and you don't have to go back and forth with the service team to try to secure that inventory. Um, so in terms of time management, we don't have agents learn a new system. If you know how to make an FIT booking, it's in Vax. It's the same strategy, just multiplied within the dashboard. And two, diversify that inventory up front. If someone comes to you and they're really set on the lead-in inventories, that's cool. We can always make that change, but try to stretch the clients out because most of the time there will be someone, that wants that upgraded room category that you need to secure for.
I agree. I agree. And I know in my experience, I've seen hotels and ships will sell top and bottom first. Those suites, those highest categories, which are the most limited, I think we're pleasantly surprised that they go first because the
Yeah.
people who say, "Oh, this we haven't traveled in a couple of years, especially now, right? And let's go big. Let's go big. This is an important birthday, important anniversary celebration, or we want to show off to the Smiths that we look at us, we're styling here." And yeah, you gotta don't be conservative. Be a little, especially now going forward. Dan, do you agree with that? Be not good, but play it aggressive because people, I believe, are going to be willing to spend a couple more bucks to get something really special.
Yeah, and I would say this, with the way the business has been booming the last 6 to 8 weeks, we're still seeing great price points even leading into 2022. I don't have a good feeling that these discounts are going to continue much longer as hotels continue to fill up.
Right.
I mean, the industry is just going nuts. So there's a lot of times that you're able to stay in a higher room category at a entry level price point right now, just because of the nature of the industry. So I would probably, stretch out a group a little bit, hold the ocean views, hold maybe an ocean front. Definitely, if it's a property known for swim ups, grab a few of those, because some of these properties only have, say, 10 or 12 of them. Your group wants 8 of them. It's a challenge. That's our service team fights that battle all the time. Certain chains, such as like some of the Dreams and Secrets, that part of the AMR collection, Blue Diamond, Royalton brand, they have great swim ups, which are always in high demand. Um, and so I would definitely hold a few of those, because I'm sure people in the group would spend that little extra money to grab them.
Yep. Yep. I agree. And for those of you in boot camp or who attended boot camp live, by the way, there's going to be one more boot camp live. It's in June. We only got 3 minutes left. So everyone who's here, please ask your final questions, make your comments. Danny, I see you posted a question. I'm going to ask Dan in just a second. But for those of you listening to the podcast now, if you did not attend my, I would say, really big boot camp live event in March, which was 3 days of training, half a day each day, about 3 hours each day. June is the last time you'll ever get to do it. That's it. That's it. So sign up now if you can, please. And Danny asked the question, if we block group space and we book into that group, it will appear in VAC. So do they access VACs for groups as well?
Yeah, so it's even though we're in VAX, it's still a separate component. So we don't have the ability to take an FIT booking and move it over into the group dashboard at all.
Right.
The group dashboard is complete separate inventory. So that's a good question, because sometimes agents go, well, I have 8 or 9 rooms. Can I move it into a group? And the question is, do you need to move it into a group? Because basically we're starting over. When you make an FIT booking, that is usually a different rate than we get for contracted. It could be actually higher, but it's got different rules for cancellation and attrition. A lot of the FIT bookings you can cancel within 72 hours, no penalty. So in order to there's not a way to do an FIT booking to a group or vice versa. You start as a contracted group and move it to FIT. We can't do that either, because it's really different rates and different structure, even though it's the same hotel. So
Okay.
just kind of keep that in mind on that front.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Thank you for bringing that up. That's always been an issue when all of a sudden it looks like you've got a group forming, you want to move it over. Sometimes it may not make the most sense. Hans made a question here, posted a comment. Thanks for the great information and your time, Dan. So passing along,
Oh,
thanks
my
to you.
pleasure.
We got like a minute left. So Dan, within that 60 seconds, words of wisdom, something we haven't talked about yet, something we need to hear from you. We need to know, because you're the inside guy. Not many people get a chance to have this to hear directly from you. Dan, again, is the director of group sales at ALG Vacations. Take it.
Yeah, I would just definitely say is, don't shy away from doing group business. It's 100% agent centric, meaning your customers can't go anywhere to get what the service levels that you're going to provide them. They can do a lot of piecing together, but again, it's agent centric. There's not an app or website out there. The other thing is, look at the hotel side. Look at creating that package. Groups are lucrative. Our average commission payout's $5,000. And people go, whoa, what is that about? Well, it's about 42 people is our average group size right now. So it keeps increasing, which is good. We were in the high 30s and now it's 42. And then just understand there's so much market interest right now, and it doesn't always have to be for a destination wedding. It could be a golf, it could be scuba, it could be bachelorette. Anywhere people gather is an opportunity for a group. So, if you're a golfer and you belong to a country club, maybe there's a PGA pro or a pro on site. Hey, do you think you could get 20 people together? We could do a golf event. Yours might be free or something. It's those casual conversations that lead agents to have the most success. So definitely be that agent of change where you're that difference maker, that the customers are coming to you in order to put a trip together. Try not to be just a booking engine for them. Be that difference maker.
Love it. Great words, Dan. What a pleasure this has been. Thanks for being here on the podcast.
Absolutely. Thank you, Stuart.
Hey, everybody. Thanks. I wish you the best success. I will be publishing the date of the next recording of the Group Sales Power Hour. I'll be heading to Cancun. I might do a broadcast from Cancun. Thinking about that. Dan, I wish you nothing but good health and happiness for you and your family. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.